Have you ever told yourself, I will do it, but not today? And then that today just keeps repeating day after day? This is the story of a young man who lost almost everything simply because he kept making excuses. Until one day he met someone who made him face the truth he had been avoiding. And from that moment on, his life was never the same. David was an ordinary office worker living in a small city. Every morning he went to work. Every night he scrolled through social media. And sometimes he asked himself, is this really the life I want? He always said he wanted to change. He wanted to learn more, start a business, and break free from that dull routine. But every time he tried to start, he stopped with a perfect excuse. I am tired. I am not ready yet. When things are more stable, I will do it. And so, year after year, nothing changed. One morning, the company announced a round of layoffs, and David was let go. He froze. Not because he lost his job, but because he realized he had nothing left but a pile of unfinished promises. Months went by. His savings ran out, and he could not find a new job. Each day passed in silence and self-blame. One rainy evening, David sat in an old cafe, staring at his trembling hands holding a cup of cold coffee. An older man with kind eyes sitting nearby gently asked, "You look tired." "Another bad day?" David sighed and said, "Not just a day, maybe a whole year." The man smiled and asked, "And what is the reason?" David replied softly, "I do not know. I always want to do more, to be better, but I just never feel ready." The man smiled again and said, "Do you know something interesting, David? Not ready is the most common excuse people say before they die." Those words stopped David cold. He went silent. The sentence echoed in his head like a bell ringing in the middle of the rain. After that meeting, David started seeing the man whose name was Thomas more often. They talked about work, dreams, and even fears. One day, Thomas asked, "Do you know why people make excuses?" David thought for a while and said, "Because they are lazy?" Thomas shook his head. "No, because they are afraid. Afraid to fail, afraid of being judged, afraid of not being good enough. And to hide from that fear, they create perfectly reasonable excuses not to start." David stayed quiet for a long time, then whispered, "Maybe I have been living like that for years." Thomas smiled kindly and said, "Then start now. Even if it is small, not to succeed right away, but to prove to yourself that you can." That night, David truly began. He woke up 15 minutes earlier. He read for 10 minutes before work. He sent out one job application every day. No one noticed him. No one praised him. But inside, something was changing. For the first time in years, he felt alive. One morning, David came to meet Thomas with a spark in his eyes. "You know what? I realized something," he said. "I always said I did not have time, but actually, time depends on how I choose to use it." Thomas smiled, placing his hand on David's shoulder. "Exactly," he said. "Life never takes opportunities away from you. You are the one turning them down with your excuses." David smiled back, his eyes glistening. Because deep down, he knew every failure, every loss, did not come from the outside world, but from his own hesitation within. At that moment, he understood that no one else could change his life but himself. A year later, David had built his own business. It was not big, not perfect, but it was his. He still met Thomas sometimes, in that same old cafe. Same cup of coffee, same familiar question. "So, how are you today? The man who no longer makes excuses," Thomas asked with a smile. David laughed and said, I am still afraid, but I do not hide anymore." They both laughed. The afternoon sunlight shone through the cafe window, lighting up David's face calm, confident, and free. "You see, David," Thomas said softly, "life waits for no one, but it always rewards those who dare to begin." David nodded gently, his smile full of gratitude. "You do not need to be perfect to start. You just need to start so that day by day you can become better. Because sometimes the biggest change begins with a small decision: to stop making excuses." If this story made you think, share it. Maybe someone out there needs a Thomas in their life too. And if you want to hear more inspiring stories, subscribe to Journey to Greatness. Stop making excuses. Start truly living.